All right, I'm just going to do a quick little recap here from last week. So we went over enrollment triggers inside of Uptics, the dynamic fixed event triggers, went through the different filtering options, some of the updates in the email editor with A to Z testing and some of the template requirements, the new lead research that we released a little while ago, but the brand new LinkedIn ones as well, AI personalization. We talked about that in here. Of course, we got into paths as well. And today we'll pretty much be exclusively talking about all sequences and paths. So it'll be quite a bit. We went through a little bit of a list management importance of that, and then just kind of high level strategies about email, because I see a lot of people struggling, and it's very hard to, of course, nail this the first time, but just kind of talking about some of the offers. So hopefully got some tea leaves from some of this that we talked about, and helps kind of set us on the right path to moving forward and getting better results in the future. So today I'm going to get into the outbound sales sequences. And one thing, I think I might have mentioned this on Tuesday, is we are working on the templates for sequences. So any feedback here is welcome. Just kind of go through some things that I had sketched out from a template perspective. We were thinking about just a normal cold email one with some different strategies and stuff like that for like A/B tests and certain number of steps and guidance. We had one with basically this one, but using AI, multi-channel outbound. I threw LinkedIn one in there, although LinkedIn's manual currently. Cold calling, email by client provider. I'll get into this one later. Deal pipeline pass, which would be like a new one I'll go over. Should be able to get to the deal nurturing sequences today if I'm concise with some of my ideas that I want to share with everybody. Lead nurturing pass, so on and so forth. Multi-channel inbound, persona-based pass, lead nurture pass, stuff like that. So these are some of the template ideas. A lot of it's kind of stemmed from some of the training here that I'm going to get into here today. So the first sequences I want to get into are the persona-based sequence paths. Okay. Let me, I thought I had clicked on that. I'm going to hop into my other account real quick here with some of my templates. So I'll get this loaded. Perfect. All right. So persona-based paths. And, big reason why we built this paths feature inside of Uptics. This is one of the main use cases of it. So the goal of a persona-based path is to be able to leverage one sequence and to split our traffic amongst multiple personas. And mostly job titles and seniorities would effectively be used here. So the idea is that, especially if you're just starting to do cold email or been struggling to get results with cold email or outreach, one of the ways that we can test more rapidly is using these persona-based paths. So what you'd do is you'd go and you'd build your lead lists effectively from whatever lead tool you're using, whether it be, Apollo, Seamless, all the other tools out there. There's a lot of different lead database providers. We can split those into multiple paths on the basis of either job title or seniority. So I'll walk you through how we would set some of that stuff up inside of the Uptics sequencer. And I'll spend a little bit more time on this first one, but a lot of the same concepts apply to other sequence paths. You just basically are swapping out filtering logic effectively. But overall, the goal with this is so that we can test more rapidly and identify personas that we can go after in the future. So maybe you're in a testing period for a certain period of time. We want to test multiple personas. So you've maybe heard of this concept called top-down or bottom-up outreach. What it is top-down would be like working from like owner, C-level down to like a contributor. And bottom-up is working from contributor up. So if you want to penetrate multiple aspects of an organization, you can do that. And previously with our sequencer, the way it would look is you just had a linear process. So you ran the risk of, if you enrolled every contact into one sequence, directors, VPs, owners, managers, contributors, so on and so forth, you could be prospecting all of those personas at one time with the same email inboxes, which kind of runs a risk. Now with the way the sequencer is set up with paths, if you split your personas into multiple paths here, then you can assign each persona different inboxes. And then you don't run the different inboxes, meaning also different domains. And you wouldn't necessarily run the risk of having issues with deliverability. So now with this approach, you could actually do a top-down and bottom-up outreach approach all at the same time to accelerate testing and trying to identify, personas that work the best. All right, so I hope that makes sense. The way this works then, typically, and I'll just show up, I'll pull up this example here. So you're gonna, just like we talked about, it would enroll your contacts into a sequence with whatever filter conditions you want to use. Maybe you're using smart lists, maybe you're using that list identifier that I talked about on Tuesday. Right. So however you would get them enrolled, you would enroll them here. You don't necessarily need to do these steps for web research. If you're doing AI personalization, you might want to do a validation step. You might want to do a web research step. You might want to do AI text. You don't have to do these steps. But basically what you do then, you'd come into your path level here. And actually it's easier to do with call it like ownership level. Okay, so, one sec. I created this sequence a long time ago before we pushed, so there's just some settings there. So what I would do is I would come in here, if I'm going to do, say, let's call this my ownership / founders. Pardon my typing. You could just come into here, and instead of doing like is logic, you could change this to contains logic. So you could say contains owner, hit enter. You do contains founder, hit enter. Okay, and it's going to start populating. All right. The thing you just want to be mindful of is that there can be some overlap from one path to another. All right. But if we get like 95, 97% accurate, like you're going to be fine. What we've done is we've kind of, once you've added some contains logic here for filtering, then you can look at the job titles. And I just kind of scan through these. I've noticed like when you pull up, like if I were to do chief, like for, chief executive officer or something, we can do CEO as well. All right. I found like when I've done founder, I like might get like chief technical, officer or something like that. So you're like CTOs. You might not want to get CTOs if you're targeting C levels in this. In which case you could come in and you could do does not contain, and you could do CTO or tech, for instance. And then that will update. Might take a little, contains logic is pretty extensive on the database, so it might take a little while for it to load. All right, and this might load longer than the rest, but you can start to do some of that and weeding out, because some of these lead databases are putting in, you're doing these list filtering conditions and stuff like that, and you might end up with some personas that you don't really intend to prospect, right? So you can actually kind of weed some of those out in that. All right, and I would normally, okay, if I got owners, founders over here, I might want to hit on the next one. Maybe I want to go after, presidents. So anybody with a president title, which I don't have any. But I found with this, if you want to make sure you don't hit vice presidents, you would want to do like a job title does not contain, excuse me here, contains. 1 sec. I had the wrong condition there. And then we might want to do it does not contain vice or VP. Okay. So we might want to have presidents and it's like own president. Yeah, maybe you would do C level here, presidents and C level. Maybe this would just be owners and founders. You can split it however you want. It doesn't really matter how you want to do it. But the important thing here is just getting the filtering conditions. And the way the sequencer is set up, so let's just say I've got, however many personas. It's going to check one sequence after another. Okay. And so you might end up with leads that don't end up in a path if it doesn't meet your conditions. Okay. So it on the upfront setup, it might take a little bit, little extra work, but that's how you could do that. An alternative way to do this, if you didn't want to do it based on job title, you could, let's close these out. You could simply import, you'd have to import your lead lists and then assign like a job title or a seniority to that list. And you could simply just pick the list if you're adding list name to all your contact records when you import. So this would be much easier on the back end, but you could run into the risk where maybe your lead database added people who you might not actually want to prospect. And so you might want to really control it here. So you can do it really either way. So you can either do it by list, or you could just export one big lead list with all different job titles and all that kind of stuff with company size, industry, so on and so forth, and roll them into the sequence, and then let the job title filters do the work from there. Okay. But you could have some that get lost in the filters. All right. So I spent a little bit more time just explaining that, just to give you set the stage for some of these other ones. So let me dive into the firmographics. So similar to persona base, you could split. Another strategy you could use is to identify best prospects based on company size, industries, or even keyword. In that case, what you could do is set up these paths to maybe I want to focus on firmographic. And one path I'm going to focus on company size, 1 to 10, maybe 11 to 20, 21 to 50, so on and so forth. So you might want to come in, and let me hop into here. Let's see if I have this one built. This is the starting point for my templates that we'll be adding. So here in this case, I would enroll my contacts, and then I might pick company employees. Now this one is a little different because the way I've done it is we did it based on range, but you can import contacts based on the actual employee size. So if let's just say it's 27 employees, what you'd want to do inside of Uptics is add a custom field for employee. We have a field in the CRM, I think by default, maybe called company. Maybe I don't have it in here. Maybe we don't have a default. But you can add a number field in Uptics and then import like an actual number, like the number 1, the number 2, the number 3, which I'll show you just quickly on the call here. So you'd come into system properties, hit add, and maybe say number of employees. I'd pick a number field, hit save. Just to be safe, I'll run a quick little refresh because sometimes that's required. And then just hit back a couple, open this up. Number of employees, perfect. You could say is between 1 and 10. So now you can split on that basis. I don't have any records, so they're not going to show up. But that's pretty simple then. Then I can come over here and I can do the exact same thing. So overall, the goal here again is to identify company sizes and targets and separate your data out so you can either A, just see what kind of results inside of your stats you're getting between each persona, or B, I should say, make incremental changes to your copy slightly for different audiences. Because a company of 1 to 10 is facing different problems than a company that has 21 to 50. Okay. And you might be targeting different prospects. Anyway, different job titles and stuff like that. All right. So that's a firmographic. You can do the same thing with an industry. You can do it with keywords. So some of these laid databases have keywords, but by and large, you'd probably stick to company size and industry for the most part. That's what I would suggest. Now, the next one, if you're in a phase where you're really massively testing and trying to figure out different segments of the market to go after, you can actually combine these strategies, the persona and the firmographic. So I'll show you how that looks. All right, so this is kind of a master sequence. It's fairly complicated, but it's good for if you're just kind of starting out. All right, I must have built that in my other account here. So I'm just going to start or maybe I saved it in 1 second. I might have just name go to, no, I must have saved it in my other account. No worries. We'll do this on the fly. Because I think it's very useful if you're trying to penetrate new markets and you're just sort of figuring out where you're going to get results with outreach which is very common. All right, so in that case, I might do something like this. So I would combine like a firmographic path here to start. So this might be, call it 1 to 10. This might be 11 to 20. However you want to break this down is completely up to you. And this might be, I'll stop at 3, but this might be 21, to 50. And you might keep going if you want. We don't currently allow paths underneath a path. But if I want to do first a firmographic, And then let's just say I wanted to do then a job title under that firmographic and split it based on seniority or job title. This is kind of how I'm currently tricking it into allowing it. I don't know if we'll do path under paths. It's kind of complicated. You could add a tag field and you could tag your records and just do like a 1 to 10. Okay. So it'll tag the record then and that'll be on the contact record. Or if you didn't want to do that, and you're going to do email validation anyway, you could do an email validation step. As long as you have one step in between a path, then you can do another path. So then I would get to this point and go, all right, I might want ownership here. Ownership. All right. And then here I might want, others. This could be, C-level, president, there, so on and so forth. And you can basically repeat that. Okay, so now I've got, it's going to split on, 1 to 10, and then it would split on ownership level. All right, so then you would know, and actually you would probably want to do this. You'd want to name this like 1 to 10, and I like to just add a bracket, ownership, so that when you pull up your stats, you would know, and I'll show you that in a second. You would be able to filter. If I just hit save here, I'll show you under the stats page. Now you'd see 1 to 10 ownership. So once you actually add email templates into here, then you would see here right in your filter to pull up your stats for 1 to 10 ownership, so on and so forth. So you can repeat that and now have one master sequence for a go-to-market strategy to test different firmographics and then also different personas within those companies to cover your bases across, and just accelerate your testing. On top of that, of course, then you get into your emails. When you pair this with being able to do, potentially A through Z testing, you can accelerate your learning phase much, much faster, where previously it took a lot longer to do this. There's just a little more frictionless, or quite a bit more, because people didn't want to really build multiple sequences to do this. It was just cumbersome. Now it's much easier. So that's the persona. This is kind of like go-to-market strategy. So persona, firmographic paths, and then a full-on go-to-market for firmographic and persona-based. The next one, which I alluded to on the last call that you could do, let's just say you know your market and you know who you're targeting, but you want to do different workflows based on actions they might take. You can do this. It's more helpful for cold leads at this point in time. So you may want to structure a sequence that looks like this, where you trigger however you want to trigger. You might send 1 or 2 emails. Okay, email number 1, email number 2, and then after one of these 2, or it could just be 1 email, you might want to trigger down paths based on opens or not opened, or maybe even clicks. All right, just keep in mind with activity-based paths, there's a lot of false signals or signals that don't even get reported that could send people down the wrong path. It is a signal, so don't take it as truth. It's just a signal. So there could be people who open your emails that an open tracker doesn't pick up because the recipient's email servers blocks email open tracking pixels. Not all of them, some of them do. So just know that somebody could be opening, engaging with your email and go down a not open path. Okay. You could have an open triggered for someone who actually didn't open. So for instance, Apple iOS update for privacy, they false open triggers. If somebody's using Apple Mail, it could be triggering opens and they didn't actually open it. Okay. So one of the ways around that, I'll show you a strategy. When you set this up, apologies again. I created these sequences before we launched and the team has to run some backend stuff. So I got to create a new one. In any event, what you'd want to do is you would want to come in and maybe do total emails open. Okay. You might want to set this at multiple open events. Okay. So you could say maybe greater than 2. So if there's multiple events, or I would at least do more, like 1 more than however many email steps you have. So in this case, it's greater than, meaning 3 or above. Okay. So if I have 2 email steps and it registers 3 opens, it's likely, much more likely, that somebody actually opened an email. So you might want to do a range then. So you could set your parameter at, say, greater than 2 opens. All right. And then your next one could be here. It could be opens, number of email opens, and you can even do between. So you could do 0 to 2 here in this instance. Okay. So in this case, you could say, 0 to 2. Now, if you did want to do it on the basis of link clicks, what you may want to do on top of these opens to make sure that nobody who's clicking links goes down one of these paths, you would want to come into here and also add a filter for number of total email clicks equals 0. Okay. So you can maybe say greater than 2 opens and 0 clicks, so on and so forth. And then over here, if you have a click parameter for your condition, you could say, greater than 0. Or you might want to do greater than 2. So just like false open signals, Microsoft is actually notorious for doing fake click bots. Okay, so you might want to optimize on the basis of number of clicks and follow kind of the same logic or similar logic, right, that we set with opens. So it's usually best to just optimize for multiple events. Just make sure that you do not leave an event out. I would, you might want to have like a default path where there's like no filters. So if it doesn't meet this filter and it doesn't meet this filter and it doesn't meet this filter, then it would go into like a backup filter. Within, you can set your conditions there. But now underneath one of these sequences, you might want to take different actions. Okay. So if somebody's opened and they've showed some interest, you might want to automate these first couple emails, right? And then if they've opened and engaged, you might want to do something a little more personalized. If say you have a little higher ticket product or you want to go deeper with the prospect, you might want to then do a lead research and say maybe do their LinkedIn profile. Okay, save the research and then add an AI text step. Okay, and pick our prompt. I'm just going to pick one just for the sake of time. Okay, and we'd save it into like a personalization or something. And then you would have your email step. All right. And wherever you save, whatever contact property you save this research into, you could say, first name, and then grab your other merge field and, insert personalization. And then you could have, line 2, line 3, so on and so forth, line 4. So you might want to use this to go a little bit deeper, or you might want to go multi-channel. Okay. So you might want to add, and I didn't add a subject line there. Did I say that? There we go. You might want to do multi-channel. So you might want to start mixing in, phone or LinkedIn. This, however you want to paint it, you can paint it. The main thing I want to kind of wanted to get across here is the way to set the filters, okay, and some things to keep in mind. And then just a little idea on like, okay, if I've got more engagement, I might want to do something a little bit more personal in that case. So that's an activity-based path. All right, so a lot of opens. I'd maybe do a little more personalization, maybe multi-channel. I'll type this in here, building in real time. Same thing with this here. All right, so those are some ideas there. And you can, again, you can paint it however you want. The next one, you might have a multi-channel go-to-market process right now anyway, in which case I will show you that use case. So it's going to look very similar to the others, except we will focus on, let's see, multi-channel outbound. We'll focus on channels. So in this case, the way we would build this, of course, you got your trigger. You might want to do email validation. We have phone validation built into the sequencer as well. These consume credits, but this one specifically, since we have a lot of inbound leads, saves us about 20% of our calls on wasted, failed numbers that wouldn't work. So it saves the sales team a lot of time. So I would lead with each one of those if you're going multi-channel specifically with the phone. But then you might want to have just an email path. Okay, so if they only have an email address, you'd want to send them down this path. Okay, so this is going to be the same thing, of course. The way this would look, I'll just build it in real time anyway, is you grab your filter. I would say email is not blank. I would say phone number is blank. And I would say LinkedIn. Let's just say we're doing 3 channels, email, phone, LinkedIn. Then you could say LinkedIn is blank. Okay. So you would just want to make sure that those fields are actually blank if you're doing it, right? A lot of lead databases have a phone number, like a company phone number or LinkedIn profile anyway. Okay. But in the event that something might be missing for a lead, you could do that. Worst case scenario is that you have a path where you do that same filter, except you would say is not blank, email is not blank, phone is not blank, LinkedIn is not blank, and it would go down a different path. In which case, then you can start with an email. Maybe you do 2 emails in a row. Okay, we've got an A/B test here. We're going to A/B test our messaging. We're going to do a bump follow-up. All right. And then we're going to do maybe a LinkedIn step instead of a cold call. Do some more, lower friction steps first. And you might want the sequence paused until this task is completed, in which case you can toggle the pause on or off. This task will get scheduled into the inbox. Okay. And the sequence will be paused for the contact until this task gets completed. All right. Once that gets completed, it'll wait. And then you might have a phone call step. And same thing with like LinkedIn, you can have these paused. So it just doesn't keep running linearly. Just write down the row. You might want to pause for this step as well. And once that's completed, then you can see that it would continue moving forward. And you might want to have another email at that point. Now, maybe your email, you want to start a new thread. Maybe it's to safety guard against email deliverability. Maybe you didn't land in the inbox with the first couple of emails. If you started a new thread on your email chain here by doing this, it's gonna pick another inbox from the list of inboxes that you've sent from. Okay, so you might want to do that. Yeah, whatever cadence and process you want to do. So I'm just going back and forth. Basically, I like to do email, pretty much usually email first. You might want to mix multi-channel in there. Otherwise, you could do a waterfall method where maybe you want to do 3 emails first, then you do all LinkedIn tasks. Then at the very end, if nothing happens, you might want to pick the phone after that. So I'd call that a waterfall method where you focus on one channel at a time. Okay. But depending on the criteria that you have set up, that would be 3 channels. This might just have 2 channels, or maybe you don't have the contact information for some of those, right? Where you want to just go down this channel. All right. You could also segregate you might have email, phone, and LinkedIn for all of your leads, but maybe a certain segment of your leads, you only want to do email. And another segment, maybe higher value prospects, you might want to do email, phone, LinkedIn. So in that case, you might want to do, this might be your C list leads. All right. Like take us, for instance, we have a lower price product on for the software, $99, $299, that kind of stuff. We might want to do just a fully automated strategy and call that a C list. All right. Well, on a higher value strategy, we do have bigger software plans and we have services. Okay. In that case, we may want to prospect 3 channels. Okay. So you could send those, even though they might have multiple points of contact information inside of the platform, you might just want to send particular personas, in which case you could have a field. This is going to be the death of me here today. You may want to have a field for, I don't know if I have quality in here or let's see what I'm calling it, ABCs. So I call it ABCs, where you can assign your leads an A, B, or C status based on what you think might be the potential value of them. If you have a varying degree of services or products that range. But you want to kind of match, the idea there is that you want to match the effort with the value you might receive with the prospect. So, for just software customers, for instance, who pay monthly, we may want to just go with a fully automated email strategy. But on the service side of things, or maybe like a mid-market target, we may want to do all 3 channels. So sky's kind of the limit there. So that's the next one, multi-channel outbound. I won't spend a whole lot of time on this next one. If you get to this level, let me know. But basically, you can route, if you get to the level where you really want to start getting into email deliverability and getting really nerdy by trying to land in the inbox at the highest level. Let's just say you figured out your go-to-market, you know who you're targeting, you've got your ABCs down, you've got your testing down for your personas, all that kind of stuff. You may want to split your traffic based on what your recipients are using for email services, Gmail, Outlook, custom email servers, so on and so forth. So the way this might look, and we have this detection inside of the system, if you use an email provider lookup step in the sequencer, it will detect if your leads are using Google, Microsoft, custom email servers, Yahoo, AOL, all those other ones. Most are Google, Microsoft custom email servers. Okay. So you may want to split your traffic to those down here and then send from inboxes like a Google to Google, right? So you could pick Google inboxes, Gmail inboxes here. You could pick Outlook inboxes here. And here, custom email servers, you may want to go with like Microsoft on custom. All right. So the idea there is we may be able to see a boost in deliverability by sending from an in-network domain and inbox. Additionally, I'll show you guys one other thing, and I won't spend too much extra time talking about this one because I think it's fairly advanced that most of you would not use. But here's that sequence I had pulled up. We also have with this field here, email provider lookup, which is this find MX. That also finds email provider type. So that not only detects if it's a Gmail, a Microsoft, a custom email server, it also detects if the email is a free email, a disposable email, or a business email. So free would be like a personal, patrick@gmail.com. Business would be like patrick@uptics.io. So say you're a recruiter. You may want to split on the basis of personal or business email. Or you might want to just totally weed out anybody who is using a free account. You might just want to send to business emails. So that's another field that we have for it. So this is next level. So again, I'm not going to spend, I'll pack it up at at that on this topic. So that's email by provider. I know even fewer of our customers use the dialer. So again, I won't spend too much. I'm going to breeze through some of these here, but you could build full on cold calling paths. Okay. And as I mentioned, we have phone validation. So you may want to split them. One path could be valid phone numbers. Another path could be invalid phone numbers. All right. So there is a filter. I will just show you this real quick. Cold calling. There is, and I guess I made this one even a little bit bigger. Let's see if, fantastic. I created this one after we launched. There is a field inside of the CRM. When you use that phone validation step, you have valid or invalid. So the field name is called phone validation. Also, when you validate that, you probably won't use this a whole lot, but just for the sake of this training, it will actually pick up the country as well. So this isn't much of a problem probably for most of you doing cold outreach, but we have a lot of inbound leads coming in, for instance, and I don't want our team calling people in the UK when it's 10 o'clock at night. So we use this to filter by country, so we're not hitting people up with calls when it's not their business hours. So we kind of use that for that. All right, so that's a cold calling use case. I'll spend maybe a little bit more time on this one. So I call this one the cold to gold with AI. So this is basically combining a cold email strategy with the AI functionality. So I won't go into maybe full detail on this, but there's multiple ways you could run this strategy. So I recommend using this. I do not recommend doing AI personalization until you've figured out your markets, before you've really figured out your go-to-market strategy, before you've figured out your personas, before you've tested A, B, C, Ds, like identify the personas, the firmographic companies that you want to target, find winning combinations of your copy first before you do AI personalization. Okay. And I would only recommend doing AI personalization at that point when it's a little bit higher ticket, when you can charge a little bit more, or you need to go deeper with your prospects. Okay. But use automated email before doing personalization. And the reason why I suggest doing that is personalization can mask bad copy. So if you haven't figured out how to talk to your customers to get them to convert yet, which is hard to do, and that's why we have a lot of these features, the personalization, you're going to get results in replies because people just appreciate that you might have to put a little bit more work into the process. So it can send some false signals. So you might get better reply rates, but your interested rates, okay, wouldn't be that great. All right. So, and we've got, you can set the AI interested sentiment. So you might have higher reply rates, but your interested rates might not be that good. So I would only focus on this one if you've figured out all those other things first and you want to go deeper and get more attention. Okay. And this does, by the way, we've tested this extensively. We use it. Our reply rates went through the roof and our interested rates went through the roof. That being said, we still have a human approving all of the intro lines to make sure that it's just not running away with AI. Okay, so it does take more labor. Now, it might take only 10 seconds to review um, personalization, and you can automate it. You don't have to do a human review step, but it can take a little bit more time, and I recommend getting the prompts dialed in first. So let me give you an example of what this might look like. So if you want to do the personalized outreach, I might validate the email first. I might want to split one audience down to do lead LinkedIn research versus website research. So the difference is this is going to get data from their LinkedIn page. This is going to scrape their homepage website. Okay, so depending on your prospects, you may want to do a different strategy for each. Okay. Website research, I feel like is good for like owners, founders, so that we can do a personalization and maybe compliment them about their business. Okay. But directors, managers, C-levels, like we might not want to like approach them on the basis of the company angle. So a LinkedIn profile, getting data from there might be better. Okay. So you would just pick, different lead research there. And then on that basis, you can have different steps here. So in this case, you might want to summarize the data. The reason why I have two steps here, oftentimes with web research, it's raw scrape data. So then this step, I say, hey, take this data and summarize it. Okay. And just as a point of emphasis here, I shared this doc Tuesday. Okay. Under here, I have some pre-built prompts. Okay, so I won't spend a whole lot of time on the prompts, but basically you can come in here, you can create a new prompt, you can copy what I put here. All right, you just need to swap out the red mark. So this is coming from our CRM field. So just paste this whole thing in, all right, in here. But I named where we store the data from the gathered information from one of these steps. I saved this in a field called raw research. But you're going to want to go into settings and create custom fields to store that data. And you're going to want to swap that out and then pull that field in. You can pull in any CRM field to pass through over to the AI. Okay. So in this case, I would summarize the data and then I would take the summarized data, pass it into another prompt, and then I would feed it this prompt. This is a very long prompt. And there's a few points that you may want to swap out or completely remove. They're in red. All right. So instead of you training the AI, we've just kind of figured out some prompts. It's a very long prompt, but this one's working very good. All right. And you can swap out we're giving it as examples to base the writing on. You can swap these out. You might want it to sound a different way. So you're basically training your own AI algorithm on how you want things written. All right. And then you just pass in that summarized research right at the very end, and it'll write personalizations. Okay. Next step, then you just pass those into an email template through the merge field, wherever you're saving the personalization. All right. And if you want a human to review, which I highly recommend, I would at least do it for like 100 leads. You may have some things you need to tweak with your prompt. Negative, I call it negative keyword additions to your prompts. So you might want to give it instructions to say, hey, do not write these certain things, right? Like we found it was adding quotes. Okay, do not add quotes, do not add special characters, and make it less than 40 words. So I would test it on like 100 leads, keep it paused. And then once you felt like if this thing's hitting like 95% accuracy eventually, you could take this and unpause it. Now you can do personalized outreach without having to approve it. So when it's paused, it'll go into your inbox as a scheduled email where then you can edit and hit send. It might take 10 seconds to review. And then the next email, and then the next email. I do have a prompt in here. We have personalized email number 1 and email number 2. We were going to do an email number 3, but we decided not to. But our interested rates like skyrocketed. So to put it into perspective, our reply rates increased, but our interested rates went from like 10 to 20% on email number 1 to like 40%, 50% by doing this. But it's a slower process. Okay, so you give and take. Sometimes speed is better than not speed, I guess. All right. So here's some pre-built prompts. And I did one for LinkedIn connection requests, since it's looking like we'll be adding some LinkedIn automation at some point. No hard fast dates to commit to, but you could have, even if you're going to manually connect with people, you could have the sequencer build LinkedIn connections. This prompt is actually working. It's a pretty good prompt. All right, but you of course want to make sure that you're using the LinkedIn research. All right, and just as a for everyone to know, this research at this point in time, we're not mapping it to any fields and upticks. It's just going to be a raw dump of the data we get, and it looks like this. It's this long string of text. So these are, when you pass these to ChatGPT, it's pretty intensive on the amount of usage. But in the future, we do plan on mapping some of the fields into upticks. But my prompt that I gave here, you might see like in the example, I say, write an engaging question based on the headline and or about from their profile data. So when I did this in quotes, ChatGPT knows how to parse that. Okay, so if I show my example and I say headline, I put headline in quotes and I put about in quotes. So it's going to grab the headline data and it's going to grab, I don't know where to, it's going to grab the about and it's going to base it on that. So you can give it that instruction. You might want to say, hey, base it on something else. Maybe you want to base it on, I don't know, title, or I probably have my awards or something like that I've won down below and stuff like it. You could base it on anything from the profile, actually. Okay. So that's, I think, helpful actually for particularly like recruiters could be helpful for staffing firms, right? Where you can instruct it to say, hey, find an accomplishment or an accolade or something like that, or tenure, right? So it's a full on dump. So that could be very, very useful for that use case. All right. Just want to give that example. If those prompts are there. Does anybody need the link to this document so you can grab this? Either way, I'm going to post it in the chat. So this should be an open document. If you have issues, let me know. But this is going to be under the outbound sales sequences section, cold to gold, AI, and then prompts. All right. I'm just for the sake of time, I don't have a lot of time here left today. I'm not going to go over email recovery, but we do have an email finder in the application. And if you're getting invalid emails, you can technically try to use our email validation product or our email finder product to, looks like I might have the wrong, did I grab the, oh no, I'm doing email finder here. Yeah, I had an email finder step, it looks like. Okay. So if it's invalid, you can, if it's invalid or spam trap, you could take it through an email finder step, do another path. Once it finds the email, if it's valid, then you could then send the original email that you might want to send up here. Our email valid or our email finder is only going to return valids though. It doesn't return catch-alls. So it finds a minority of the email addresses. Okay, because we don't want to do catch-alls and then have high bounce rates and stuff like that for deliverability purposes. A lot of these tools are doing that. All right. So I won't spend a whole lot of time there. I will try to wrap it up with this here today, and then next week there'll be a lot more time for open Q&A and all that kind of stuff. So I'll challenge everyone to start building some of these. But the ones I want to leave on here today are the lead and deal nurturing sequences. And these are probably not as sexy to everybody else here on this call, but I'm going to challenge everyone to actually do it. Especially just to squeeze all the blood out of everything you possibly can for all of your opportunities. Okay, especially if you have kind of a higher volume opportunity business. Like we have a lot of people signing up and all this kind of stuff. So for us, it's a little bit higher velocity. But this can give you, even if you're not higher velocity, at least you can have basically what you can do under your triggers. You pick event triggers. Like I said, and save it. And you would pick, I'm going to do the deal stage ones because it's like the easiest one to explain. But if your deal stages are updated inside of the CRM, let's just say a lead goes from, collapse that, meeting booked to no showed. Okay. If you move it on the, say the Kanban view from meeting booked to no showed, it can automatically start this process. And the events here allows re-triggering. Okay. So the lead, unlike current sequences right now, the a lead can only be in one sequence one time. That's kind of the old way. Now with events is we're allowing re-triggering. So if we pick up that the deal stage is updated, it will re-trigger this whole process, and then you can have it routed down a different path. So in this case, let's see. Yeah, of course. I should have looked at that before. In this case, what you would do is under your paths, you would pick deals, filters. I'd pick stage. All right. And let's say meeting scheduled. Okay. So anytime somebody meets meeting scheduled, they're going to come down this path. All right. And then you can build whatever cadence you want. Where this is helpful, I feel like, and this is what we're using it for, is just having a plan of attack for every stage of your pipeline. So meeting booked, if they no show you, all right, maybe you want to pick up the phone, make sure a phone call task gets created, or this could be an automated email, it could be an automated text message, it could be whatever you want it to be. For us, like I want to make sure our team picks up the phone and calls them. Okay, I want to send a text, I want to send an email. All right. Meeting complete interested. I want a different path. Okay, I've completed the meeting. They're actually interested. I want to make sure something happens from there. All right. I might wait 7 days and then I want to make a phone call, to check on the prospect. If I don't get a hold of them, they could stay in this path, right? And move on to this stage. Okay. Or move on to this step, Or maybe it's meeting complete. It's just bad timing. All right. You might want to have a path for wait 45 days and then send them some communication, right? Nurture them with email. Or maybe it's in a proposal phase or closed won stage, right? You might want to have something happen with closed won. It might be closed lost stage. And then you may want to split. Maybe you're saving the data on a deal. You might want to do another path. Maybe you lost it because they went with a competitor or your pricing or some other reason. You could actually split it down a different path on that basis and then build nurturing campaigns. So you could ask them like, hey, how's everything going with competitor? Okay. You would have to save the competitor into the CRM, right? But you could insert that. All right. So this might be an afterthought for a lot of you that just want to accelerate outreach. But as you accelerate outreach, if you have more opportunities, having a path for every stage of your pipeline, super valuable. All right. Not sure what happened there. You can do the same thing for currently lead status updated. Okay. All right. That's just going to be lead status instead of pipeline. I think I showed this the other day, but you can change on a contact record, you can change lead status. So if you have your cold outreach going, and let's just say you have a lead status of cold, because it's cold, and they reply back in some fashion, maybe they need more information or they need a follow-up. You could try to assess, like maybe follow up in 3 months, 6 months. You could have a status here for 3-month follow-up. And then you could have a path inside of your lead status event paths for 3-month follow-up and start that with a 3-month delay. Now, all you do is change the lead status and you forget about it. And now you can go deeper with your prospects who have at least raised their hand. Because I see too many people not following up nurturing. With cold outreach, it takes much more nurturing and follow-up than people really think. And usually problems stem from outreach of trying to just feed more volume, more volume, more volume. Usually have deliverability problems, list quality problems, a whole lot of, problems. Not to mention a lot of people saying, take me off your list, take me off your list. So it can be kind of a negative thing for you or your team to be constantly sifting through not interested, right? Where we get this dialed in first or along the way. All right. And now we have nurturing and follow-up mechanisms built in automatically so you can go deeper with your prospects and stay top of mind. Let them know you're not going away, even if it's every 3 months. Okay. I know it's hard to think 3 months out when a lot of us are focused on 3 days out. That's just the life of, a lot of us have small businesses. So that's my spiel on that. So lead status pass, deal stage pass. I am probably not going to go over this on this training. Because I know unless somebody says, show me inbound sequences with pass that you would do. We have a lot of inbound. I will briefly go over some workflow automations. We've talked about a lot of these, but you can do email validation, workflow automation sequences. This would be standalone outside of an existing sequence. You could have anytime a contact comes into Uptics, you could validate their email address. So you don't have to worry about validation later. Every time a phone number is added in Uptics, you could validate the phone if you wanted. You can do tag steps. Oh, I forgot to add just forgot to add image. You can do deal creation. Okay. So you can auto create deals. Let's just say you change a lead status to open deal. You don't need to do anything else. You could have that come into a sequence here, pick a pipeline, pick a stage, pick a deal owner, days to close. You could add some standard. You could add some standard here, pick a frequency, and then that deal is going to get created and go to that pipeline. Now, if you pair that with your pipeline automation or your pipeline paths, then things are rock and roll a little bit. But I realize that takes a little bit more volume to want to worry about, so I won't spend a whole lot of time there. The last one I'll show you is lead distribution. So if you have multiple users inside of Upticks and you had multiple users, you could click multiple users and it would do a round robin association. So then you can start using things like, all right, phone call tasks, I want to assign to contact owner. So you would do a distribute to your users, and then you would do a task for contact owner, and then it would get assigned to a particular user. All right, so those are some workflow automations. All right. We're at the top of the hour here. I'll stick around for questions, but next Tuesday and Thursday, I'll be opening it up. Like this is pretty much all I have really to teach so far, unless there's some other use cases. If someone's like, hey, I'd love to see a use case for this, we can get into that. But what I would challenge everyone to do from now until then is to start building some of your own sequences and paths. And then next Tuesday, I'll actually get in and help you dial in your paths. Could be your paths, could be your copy, could be feedback. Try to write as much, copy as possible because copy can take a lot of time. Copy can take a lot of time. And that's part of why I wanted to, inside of this training, put that little bit, the little nuggets here about your offer, because this is super, super important. And then the A through Z testing. So write multiple variations. So build some sequences, build some paths, do some A through Z testing, work on your offers. And then next Tuesday, also next Thursday, we'll actually dive into your use case. I'll help you finalize some things. Let's get some stuff launched and let's start growing. So next Tuesday, Thursday will be all about just opening it up to questions. So my throat hurts after an hour of talking usually. So that'll be a good one. So quick questions. So Stephen, and you can unmute too if you want, Stephen. Can you show us how to copy, pass, and sequence? You had done it for me, but I don't remember how to copy. Great question. All right,
and when you did it for me, it didn't save.
Oh yeah, I had to recreate it. All right, so I'll show you how to do that.
Thanks.
So if we do an email step, okay. There's a couple different ways. You can hit the three dots here, hit copy. And I don't know if the team fixed this, but use paste below for now. There's a little something that's causing the reason why I had to recreate yours is because of this. They might have fixed it. I'm not 100% positive, but just to be safe, just hit paste below and it'll paste. So if I had multiple steps here and it'll copy all of your copy as well.
Okay.
All right. So if I want to hit that, let's just pick a couple templates quick and I'm going to hit copy and then I hit paste below. All right. It's going to paste all that. Now, because I had one step there, you could just come in here and hit delete, double confirm, and then paste. What it doesn't do yet, and I've already asked for this, so it's in it'll be in the works, I guess, is when you copy a path, I want it to copy all the settings as well. You may have some incremental changes to those settings. All right. It looks like we got people joining. Must have thought that it was 10 o'clock Mountain Time or something. But surprise, the couple who just joined. We're done for today. We started at 10 Central, but this is recorded. I'll be uploading it to YouTube today. And next Tuesday and Thursday, we're live as well. But yeah, so we are working on that. And I'm actually, one of the other things I want this 3-dot copy. I actually want that at the whole path level. So then I could build out directors, owners, founders, all the parameters here, and then I could copy the whole thing under a firmographic angle or something like that. So I don't have to keep repeating because I've already been rebuilding these. And I'm like, this is annoying. We can just copy this. It's obviously much, much easier than what it was before to do all of this, but I'm greedy and always want the next thing. And that's just the way it goes. So that's a great question on copying. You can also, on that topic, for your steps, you can also just hit duplicate. I'll just show you this. So it'll duplicate a step, or you could hit copy here and you could come over to here and hit paste
It's
below,
below, and that
or
just does the sequence step.
yep, yep.
Okay.
Or you could do paste to replace. And I copied that one and then I hit this. Just be cautious that you don't override,
Right.
something that you've already written, your work of art or something like that. So just be very cognizant of that. Um, I don't think I've done that one yet, but I've been a fan of adding just a new step and then paste to replace here. And then if I wanted to delete that one, then I just delete. But it's there. We've just tried to make it as easy as possible because our last sequencer, I thought it was a complete nightmare with email templates and adding steps and all that kind of stuff. So we really, actually, this whole thing, the front end took way more time than the back end. Like it took us months. So the back end was weeks. But this has been in some phase of development since February. And let's hope it moves the needle for the business. So let's see here. For those on the call that are just like listening in, by all means, if you have any questions whatsoever, feel free to enter into the chat. Otherwise, next week I am going to be spending it's going to pretty much be open Q&A. I may do a couple like little things at the beginning, but it'll be pretty much open Q&A. Hey JP, yeah, so we started at 10 Central. I will be uploading this to the YouTube channel. I uploaded call number 1 to the YouTube channel as well. So give me a little bit of time here today and you'll see it on the YouTube channel. So if you're not currently subscribed to the YouTube channel, just go to YouTube and type in like cold to gold. If you just type in cold to gold, we'll probably come up first. Yeah, cold to gold selling with Uptics. You're going to see my lovely image here. And you can of course subscribe to the channel if you're not. Otherwise, it'll probably be the first video once I upload it. And I'm also adding it into a playlist for the Uptick sales sequencing masterclass. So I'm turning this into a masterclass. And I'll be recording some other videos, diving into some other content that I didn't cover on these for some broader use cases that I don't think will be as valuable for everybody. And then any like troubleshooting and all that kind of stuff we'll cover next week. And I just put TBD because I don't know what we're going to run into. So if you run into any issues whatsoever, paths are in beta. It will not be perfect. So just know we're already tweaking, adapting, updating. We're already doing some of that with feedback and stuff like that. But as you're building, if you're running into things and you're running into anything, like let us know, document those, and we'll get them fixed and updated as soon as possible. But given it's a beta feature, we'll run into some issues here and there. So with that being said, I'm going to pack it up for today. If no one has any other questions, JP, if you are next Tuesday, Thursday, it'll be 10 Central, same time as this week, but 10 Central, I will be recording, and those calls will be mostly, instead of me blabbering and talking and teaching, it'll be mostly, I'm challenging everybody to get in, start building sequences, start building paths, and then I'll help you build whatever use case you want to help you accelerate outreach. All right. So appreciate everyone. It looks like everyone's dropping off. So we'll see you guys next week. Have a great weekend. Bye, everyone.